from the dilapidated shed that we bought back in 2020 to a completely restored example of a near extinct car. Our friends at Lancaster Insurance are running monthly giveaways. You can win all sorts, from experience days to tools, restaurant vouchers and tech. So check the video description for full details and to enter. It's a funny thing being into cars. Sometimes you're browsing the classifieds and you see a car that jumps out at you. Not because it's exotic or even because it's concourse. Quite the opposite, because it's a project, it's down on its luck, it needs some restoration, and you think you can be the one to save it. The trouble is that for every MGB or Mini or E-Type that does get restored and see the road again, there are 10 lost causes. Cars where there isn't the widespread support, you can't get parts for them very easily, and the value of the finished product isn't much more than it would be as a tatty project. And that's how once common street furniture becomes near extinct. Now that very nearly happened to a car that caught our eye back in 2020, a 1985 Austin Montego Estate. Resplendent in beige, it sported just 32,000 miles on account of a life on Guernsey. But that same life meant it also sported some worrying looking rust, particularly around the roof, but also on the doors and the tailgate. But we saw potential in this beige bus and we wanted to save it, and ultimately we bought it. The drive back from Cornwall revealed just how much this car wanted to live on, and everyone who drove it was surprised how well it drove. It felt tight, it felt eager, clearly had life left in it. So with a sense of trepidation, we slowly started peeling away the rust on the roof, expecting potentially to have to replace the entire thing. But the Montego had a pleasant surprise for us. Inside, it was structurally sound, and that meant that our expert metalworker Alan could get to work cutting, fabricating and welding plates to go over the hole to make the roof solid again. Having done the same with the tailgate and the doors, as well as sorting out a small amount of filler and dents on the sills, we gave it a quick blow over of paint in all the areas that had been worked on. The trouble is that 35 years of wear and tear on the paint meant we couldn't match the original paint with what we'd blown in. We had a car that was structurally sound and already owed us quite a bit of money, but still looked like a patchwork quilt. But in for a penny, in for a pound, we committed to a full respray for the Montego. Hundreds more man hours and countless more pounds were poured into stripping it down further and preparing it for a full respray in its original BL beige. And after all that work and all that time saving a car that most people would have just scrapped by now, it's finished. So I am very pleased to reveal our restored Austin Montego. So there you have it. How amazing does this thing look? From the dilapidated shed that we bought back in 2020 to a completely restored example of a near extinct car. And now you've had a look at the bigger picture, let's look at some of the finer details. When we bought the car, it was on its original 14-inch metric wheels with tyres that were well past their best. They actually dated from last century. Now, unfortunately, you can't buy metric tyres in the Montego size anymore, so we thought laterally and purchased a set of 14-inch steel wheels from a later Maestro, and that allowed us to fit brand new tyres. Unfortunately, the metric wheel trims then wouldn't fit the later Maestro wheels, so we got a set of these wheel trims from a later Montego where it had ditched the Austin or the Rover badging and it was simply badged Montego. Now, of course, that means they're not quite period correct for our 1985 car here, but they're still OEM spec, and it must be said, they rather look the part, don't they? To do the repairs to the roof, this window had to come out, and unfortunately the brittle 35-odd-year-old plastic window clips shattered when we removed it. As you can imagine, original Austin Montego Estate window clips aren't that easy to come by, so we turned to the wonderful world of 3D printing. Classics Monthly reader Colin Barnett offered to help us recreate some window clips, so we posted our original clips to him and he translated the clip in 2 sections into the Tinkercad 3D modelling software before combining them into a single element. The software set printing parameters and dimensions before translating them into instructions for the 3D printer. Just 20 minutes later, the clip was complete, and after 2 further revisions for better fitment and strength, Colin had done the impossible in creating brand new Montego window clips. Readers John Dowson and Jim Playford also offered up original stock of the secondary white window clips, and with that little lot, we were in business. Thanks to John, Jim, and particularly Colin for their fantastic contributions.
The interior of the Montego is probably the best conditioned bit of it. It really is in good nick in here, with one exception, and that was a small rip at the base of the driver's seat. Now on closer inspection it turned out it wasn't actually ripped, it was just where the stitching had come apart. So Simon from Classics Monthly got the sewing kit out and nicely patched it up so it's whole again. Nice work, Simon. And now with those last few little bits done, we can take this fully restored Montego for a drive. As soon as I started driving this car again, I was reminded why I liked it so much. It really is like settling into your granny's living room. There's quite a lot of brown, fair bit of beige, but it's comfortable, it's relaxing, it's a homely place to be. And you've got these big, comfortable armchairs combined with the soft suspension means this car rides superbly well. It's so relaxing. And it's actually a nice car to drive. The steering's direct, and once you're up to speed you don't notice the weight of it, and apart from the rubbery, vague and quite unpleasant gear change, if I'm honest, this is a thoroughly nice car just to cruise around in. With a fresh cam belt and water pump as well as a thorough service, the Montego was fighting fit, and we've all loved using this thing. It's really comfortable, really easy to drive, and it's uber practical. Now obviously this car sat for quite a long time, and when you start pressing it into regular use you notice things that aren't quite right with it. And I noticed a few bits when I drove this car to Silverstone for the Toyota Parallel Pomeroy that the Avensis took part in. For a start, the cigarette lighter wasn't working, which meant I couldn't charge up my sat-nav, and when I got there that night I discovered that the interior light wasn't working either. Now when I got home I checked the fuse box, and sure enough the solution to both those problems was a new fuse, and with those changed out the car has now got a cigarette lighter and an interior light, and instantly it's more usable. Also the wiper blades were knackered, so some brand new blades for a couple of quid sorted it out and again made the car more usable, and I also put some WD-40 on the slightly seized wiper linkage that every now and then wouldn't park properly. There's the headliner, which, yeah, it's in perfectly good condition, but it's come away from the board and it is sagging rather badly. Then there's the radio. It's the original Montego item, and it's a bit flatulent, shall we say. We'll get to all that in due course though. For now it's just about using this car and celebrating the fact that we saved a rare example of a once common breed from the scrap heap. A lot of people said this was a stupid project and that we were daft for even attempting it. But seeing it today, looking this good, I'm not sure I agree with that. It's a funny thing, being into cars.